In our last lecture, we had discussed about the corporate governance structure, which is being practiced in Australia. That we had discussed in the last session. Today, we will be discussing the corporate governance structures which are prevailing in South Africa, UK, and Singapore. So, what is the corporate governance guideline in Singapore? That we will be starting with. So, Singapore corporate governance regulatory framework is contained in the rules comprising mainly of Companies Act, the Securities and Futures Act, and in respect to the listed company, Singapore Exchange Listing Manual. So these are certain guidelines which controls the corporate governance in Singapore. So Companies Act of Singapore, Securities and Futures Act Singapore, and the guidelines of Singapore Exchange, which are listed in the listing manual of Singapore Exchange. These documents or these rules and regulations are controlling the guidelines of corporate governance in Singapore. Now, according to the listing guidelines of the Singapore Exchange, there are certain guidelines they have mentioned that we will be discussing. Now, it is mentioned very clearly that the organizations, the companies can be imposed with sanctions such as fines not exceeding to $250,000 per contravention as subject to a maximum of 1 million per hearing for multiple charges. So in the corporate governance guidelines of Singapore, it is mentioned clearly that the rules which are mentioned in the Companies Act of Singapore or which are included in the listing manual of Singapore Exchange, if these rules are contravened, if these rules are violated, if these rules are not followed, then what type of action can be taken against that company? That is mentioned very clearly. How much fine can be imposed for one violation, and how much fine can be imposed if there are multiple violations. So everything is clear. So whenever a company is created in Singapore, that company has to follow these guidelines. So they are aware at the inception itself that if they contravene, if they violate any of the rule, there can be a heavy fine imposed on them. And if the violation is for multiple times, that more than once they are violating the rules of the Singapore Exchange guidelines, then how much monetary, in terms of monetary fine they have to pay, that is mentioned. Next is require a listed company to implement an effective education and compliance program. Very important. So require a listed company to implement an effective education and compliance program. Effective education. Education to whom? here we are talking about education to the employees of the organization. The employees who are working in the organization and who are implementing the rules, or who are following the rules of the corporate governance under Singapore. So they have to be educated that these are the rules made by the government and we have to follow these rules. If we violate these rules or if we do not follow these rules, what actions can be taken against us, against the company, that should be known to each and every employee of the organization, and that is what education program is. So it is not that only the board of directors of the company or the highest authorities of the company should be aware of the rules and regulations of corporate governance, but what is said in Singapore guidelines is that all the employees of the organization who are implementing certain rules and regulations in the company, they should be aware of that their rules which they are implementing in the organization should not contravene any of the rule, any of the law, any of the regulation mentioned by the government of Singapore. So that should be known to them. Next is requires the listed companies, directors or executive officers to undertake mandatory education and training program. So before this point, we have seen that not only the highest authority, but the lowest authorities also should be well trained, well educated about the rules and regulations of corporate governance. Now it is mentioned that the highest authorities, the board of directors who are newly nominated for on the board, they should also be given a proper training related to rules and regulations of corporate governance. For example, one of the director, he has no working experience. He has an experience of independent counselor or independent expert, independent uh, consultant, and because of that experience he has been included on the board. Now this particular person who is not having enough experience of working in a company, he is handling his independent consultancy firm. So these type of persons who are included on the board of directors, plus the other newly recruited board of directors also, it is mentioned very clearly that they should be given proper training of what? Training of the rules and regulations that are to be implemented, that are to be followed during the day-to-day working of the organization under the guidelines of government of Singapore. Next is require the resignation of a director or executive officer. Those who are not following the rules and regulations mentioned very clearly in the guideline, that they are supposed to tender their resignation. They have to resign from the company. Now, the next important guideline is related to the role of board in Singapore. In detail, we have discussed the role of board in India. Now we will be discussing in brief the role of the board of directors of a company in the government of Singapore. First, the first duty or first role of the director at the board level is provide entrepreneurial leadership and strategic objective, which should include appropriate focus on value creation, innovation, and sustainability. A very vast type of function, or role, we can say, is provided under the corporate governance guidelines of Singapore, which says that the role of the director is to provide entrepreneurial leadership, set strategic objectives. So here we can say that the directors should lead the company from the front. They should provide the right direction to the company. They should set strategic objectives, that how the company can earn a profit in the short run and in the long run. These strategies, these strategic objectives are to be framed by the directors at the board. So they should provide leadership, they should provide strategic objectives, which should include appropriate focus on value creation, innovation, and sustainability. Very important three words: value creation. Value creation means creating profits for the company. Very simple. Innovation, they should come up with some innovative idea how my company will be more profitable in the next year, how my company will be more profitable in the next 15 years, 10 years, or 5 years. So some innovative ideas they should suggest, they should implement, they should propose to the board, so that the company is profitable. So that is their first role. Now the next role says ensure necessary resources are in place for the company to meet the strategic objectives. Now in the first role, we have seen that the strategies are to be prepared by the board of directors. They have to provide the right direction. They have to come up with some innovative ideas, new creative ideas, which can make the company more and more profitable. That is the first role. The second role says that they should see to it that all the necessary resources are in place for the company to meet its strategic objectives. Now, the board has decided that it should add some new products to its portfolio. Now, for example, a company is there which is manufacturing two-wheelers, petrol two-wheelers. Now, as the petroleum prices are increasing, now the company has realized that it's a fossil fuel. In a short span of time, there will be acute shortage of petrol. So to overcome this acute shortage, the company has decided that it should be introducing one more manufacturing line, which will be manufacturing electric two-wheelers. So this is the innovative idea which the directors at the board level have proposed, that as in the near future there will be a acute shortage of petrol, we should now think of starting manufacturing a new line of electric vehicles, and so that slowly we can replace our petrol vehicle with electric vehicle. So we cannot wait for say 5-10 years. When there will be shortage, then we will think of changing our manufacturing of petrol two-wheelers to electric two-wheelers. So innovative idea has been proposed at the board level by the board of directors that we should not wait for 5-10 years to check whether there is acute shortage or not. When we are aware that in the near future there is going to be a shortage of petrol. So to make the company profitable, the board has decided that we should opt for manufacturing, or we should start manufacturing electric vehicles also. That is the first role. The second role is whatever has been suggested at the board level, whatever policy is prepared at the board level by the board of directors. It is not that board of directors are only supposed to propose some innovative ideas or make some strategies which will be profitable to the organization, but their role is extended to checking, to monitoring that whether all the resources are available in the organization or not. The board has suggested that okay, after 6 months the organization should start a separate unit for manufacturing electric vehicles, two wheelers. Now here the role of the board of director is also to check what are the resources that the organization requires if it wants to start a new unit manufacturing electric vehicle, whether all that resources are available or not. If not, the board of director has to see to it that immediately that resources are made available to the company. So not only making strategies, their role is in implementing those strategies also. So they have to check whether whatever they have proposed, whatever they have come up with, whether it is implemented properly in the organization or not, whether all the resources are available or not. They have to see to it. If the resources are not available, then they have to make sure that the organization gets those resources at the earliest. So that is the second role and very important. The third role mentioned under the Singapore corporate governance guidelines of the board of directors is establish and maintain a sound risk management framework effectively monitor and manage risks to achieve an appropriate balance between the risk and company performance. So sound risk management. Risk management, we had discussed earlier also, that what are the risks associated with the company. Now, in this example, in the previous example, we have seen that why the board of directors was thinking that they should introduce manufacturing of electric vehicle. The reason was very simple, that they were thinking that in the near future there will be shortage of petrol, and if there is shortage of petrol, it will adversely affect their manufacturing of petrol two-wheelers. To overcome that problem, the board has suggested that we should immediately think of starting manufacturing of electric vehicle. Now, in the third point, what it said is that risk management should be sound enough to project the risk. That these are the risks involved. and we have to counter those risks. We have to overcome these risks. Next one, constructively challenge management and review its performance. Again, very important. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the fourth role is related to constructively challenge management and review its performance. Mention, please get to the meaning of these words. Constructively challenge. Constructively challenge management and review its function. Constructively challenge means positively challenge. Negatively challenge, nahi, positively challenge. So positively challenge management and review its performance. They have to, we are talking about board of directors. So one of the board of directors rule is to monitor the performance of the management of the organization. Now board has come up with some strategy. They have made all the resources available in the organization for implementing those strategies. Then the board is also supposed to challenge the management and review its performance. Always they have to challenge the management and review its performance. Okay, we had given you this, and what is the output given by you? They have to check that. Then only they will come to know whether the organization is profitable or not. All the resources are made available to the organization. Everything, whatever was required by the organization, that okay, we will be starting a new electric vehicle unit, but for electric vehicle unit we require these things. So all those things, all those resources have been given to the management of the company by the board of directors. Now it is up to the management of the company to see to it that they follow the instructions and they start the business of electric manufacturing of electric vehicle at the stipulated time or at the agreed time. 6 महीने के बाद इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल शुरू करना चाहिए. सारे रिसोर्सेस अगर आपको दे दिए गए हैं तो क्या एक्सपेक्टेड है मैनेजमेंट से कि 6 महीने पूरे होने से पहले ही मैनेजमेंट ने इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट शुरू कर देना चाहिए. दैट इज व्हाट इज एक्सपेक्टेड. So here constructively means positively. They are not say what we can say is they are not negatively controlling the management, the board of director, but they are positively checking. You had asked for these resources. We have provided you these resources. Now it is up to you to start performing. Now, what happens if constructive challenge is not there? Constructive means positive challenge, positive control. Now what is happening in government of Maharashtra, we have been seeing for the last couple of months or more than say 6 months, we have been seeing that what is happening in the government, whether the government is concentrating on its role and responsibilities. So the answer is no. The government is unable to concentrate. Why? Because the government is concentrating in some other activities. We have seen that the opposition party is coming up with some sort of allegations that the ministers in the government are corrupt and they have done this corruption. And the ruling government or the ruling party is doing what? They are trying to save their ministers, or they are trying to counter the claims of the opposition. So all their energy is getting wasted in such type of things, and they are not constructively contributing to the governing. क्या हो रहा है कि ज्यादातर ध्यान, ठीक है, दो मंत्रियों के ऊपर इल्जाम लगा, इन्होंने दो मंत्रियों के ऊपर कार्रवाई कर दी. सो बोथ द ऑपोजिशन and the ruling party, they are trying to come up with allegations against each other. So they are wasting their time. So they are not serving people. They are just focusing on how they can save their people from the charges of corruption. So that is not called as constructive monitoring. Constructive monitoring is positive monitoring. Okay, people of the state have given you this power. They have sent you to the assembly. Now it is your duty to perform your role effectively. If you are handling a portfolio of, say, finance department, or the say a tourism department, so the person who is handling tourism department is supposed to come up with some innovative ideas which will be beneficial to the entire state as well as the people of the state. If such thing happens, we can say yes, it is constructive monitoring. If such thing doesn't happen, then it is not constructive, it is destructive, it is negative. So constructive challenge means the continuous monitoring, positive type of monitoring should be on the management of the company, that okay, you had asked us about these resources, we have provided you all the resources, and now it is up to you to start performing. Next one, instill the ethical corporate culture and ensure that companies value standards, policies, practices, and consistent with that culture, and are consistent with that culture. So ethical corporate culture is based on what? Ethical. Ethical means where the company is giving an assurance that we will be following all the rules and regulations. We will not be going against any of the rule. We will see to it that no unfair practice will be implemented in the organization to earn more profit. That is called as ethical practices. That no unfair practice will be implemented. We will follow all the guidelines. We will follow all the rules and regulations. Nothing will be against the people, against the employees of the organization, or against the stakeholders of the organization. And that is called as ethical practices. So here, one of the role of the board of director is that they have to instill means inculcate, develop ethical practices, develop the practices of ethical corporate culture in the company employees, so that the employees shall have a feeling that they have to see to it that they will not indulge in any unfair practice to earn more profit for the organization. Particularly, suppose if the finance department is preparing some financial statements, some financial information, they should see to it all the information mentioned in the statements are correct. They should not manipulate the information for earning more profit. Suppose the organization has earned a profit of 5 crores and the organization wants to raise more capital. Now, if for raising more capital, if this 5 crore of profit is manipulated with 50 crores of profit in the financial statement, in the financial document prepared by the finance department of the organization, instead of 5 crores of profit, they have shown 50 crores of profit. Now, if this wrong information is shared in the market, what will happen? People will believe in the document as it is signed, as it is authenticated by the board of directors of the company. And people will think, yes, this is the company where they can invest their hard earned money. Because they have seen that within a short span of time, the company has come up with a profit of 50 crore. Next year, they may go for 60 crore or 70 crore or 100 crore. So the company it will be easier for the company to raise capital. But this type of practice, 5 crore was made 50 crore to raise more money from the stakeholders, from the market. This particular practice is not only wrong, but it is also unethical. For earning profit, if you are sharing wrong information, that is called as unethical. So here, one of the role of the board of director is to inculcate, develop the feeling, the culture of ethical behavior. No matter what comes in the way, we will be we will not never be manipulating any of the information. Whatever information is correct will only be included in the documents prepared by the company, whether it is related to the finance document or marketing document or any other type of document. All the information will be checked and only correct information will be included in the company documents. So here, the board of directors are trying to inculcate or develop a culture of ethical behavior among the employees. All the employees of the organization should have a feeling that we have to follow the rules and regulations. Even if we are aware that if we manipulate a small, say, amount or small information, that will be profitable for the organization. But as it is against the principle, it should not be followed. It should not be implemented. And that is called as ethical behavior. Next one, ensure transparency, accountability to key stakeholders and groups. Very simple. Ensure transparency and accountability to key stakeholders and groups. All these stakeholders. So what is expected is transparency. Transparency means for the last 5 years, the organization was earning profit. But suddenly, this year, the organization is into loss. Now, the organization, if wants to protect its image, and while protecting the image, if the organization thinks that for the last so many years, we are earning profit, but all of a sudden, if we share this information with our stakeholders, that this year we are at loss, it may adversely affect the stakeholders. They may start selling their stakes in the company, shares in the company, stocks in the company. Now, to avoid this, if the company shares a wrong information, that for the last 5 years we are earning profit, this year also we have earned profit, but it is bit low. So wrong information. So if such wrong information is communicated, we can say that the organization is not transparent. Organization has to be transparent. Transparent means whether profit, whether loss, whatever is correct, it should be known to all the stakeholders. Yes, for the last 10 years we were in profits, but this year, because of this problem, the company has suffered a loss of this many rupees. That thing should be known to all the stakeholders, and that is called as transparency. If you are refusing certain information from certain people, if you are say not showing all the information, keeping some information secret, then it is not called as transparent system. Transparent means everything is known to everyone, and that is called as transparency. So these were some of the important roles that are to be performed by the companies working in Singapore. Most of these roles, most of the guidelines are very much related to the role of board or the guidelines of corporate governance that we had discussed in India also. So it is not that there is say 100% difference between the guidelines of corporate governance of Singapore and the guidelines of corporate governance in India. More or less, it is very much same. There are certain, say, dissimilarities or certain changes, but we can say most of the points are related to each other. If we talk about ethical behavior, it is there in Singapore, it is there in India. If we talk about transparency, it is there in Singapore, it is there in India. If we talk about the monitoring of the on the performance of the company, then it is there in India, it is there in Singapore. So most of the points are interrelated. Now, the next one is UK, United Kingdom. How their guideline of corporate governance works, that we will be discussing. So in United Kingdom, the Companies Act 2006 is the main principal statute relating to corporate governance of United Kingdom. Companies Act 2006 is the main document on the basis of which the guidelines of corporate governance are based. They have mentioned in the document under Companies Act 2006 in United Kingdom certain duties of directors at the board that we will be discussing first, and then we will be discussing another points. Very simple and very much related that we have already discussed is point number one is, or duty number one of director is to act within the provision mentioned in section 171 of the Companies Act 2006. So first duty is that whatever is mentioned in Companies Act, the directors has to act accordingly. Next is to promote success of the company, that we have discussed earlier also. In Australia, same point is there. If we talk about India, same point is included. We have just seen the Singapore corporate governance guideline also. And here also, one of the most important duty of the board of directors is to exercise or to promote success of the company. The main goal of the board to see to it that the company remains profitable. It should not happen that one year the company is in profit, the another year the company is in loss. Another 2 years company made profit, another 3 years company made loss. So that is not expected. What is expected is that the directors should contribute to the success of the company, and that is what is expected as directors role of the duty of director under the Companies Act, United Kingdom. Next one, exercise independent judgment. Independent judgment means very simple. Independent judgment. The board of directors, all the directors should give their independent judgment. Means whatever they think, whatever their ideas are, they should be, they are independent to share those ideas, share those innovative suggestions. They should not be working under the influence of someone. That two directors at the board are very powerful, and if they are influencing the other board of directors, that is not transparency, that is not good for the health of the board of that particular company. So what is expected is exercise independent judgment. Next is to exercise reasonable care, skill, and diligence. Whatever suggestion they are giving, whatever strategies they are trying to frame, they should see to it that those suggestions, those strategies will be beneficial to the company. So they should take enough care to see to it whatever they are proposing, whatever they are suggesting, those strategies are definitely going to benefit the organization in the long run. That is their role, that is their duty. Next one is not to accept benefits from the third parties. Now, board of directors, they are nominated on the board of a particular company. They are supposed to take the agreed remuneration, agreed package from that company only. They are not supposed to take any secret money from the third party. Third party in the sense, now, for example, the company, a company is there, and that company is related, is into building roads. They build roads, and very recently, the company has submitted a a very huge tender, एक बहुत बड़ा टेंडर कंपनी ने सबमिट किया है. Directors are aware of what the company has quoted in the tender. Now, one of the board of director, if by receiving certain amount from the third party, which is also into building roads, that is the competitor of this particular company, if he accepts bribe, if he accepts some amount, some money from the third party and gives this very secret information to them that this is the amount which we have quoted in the tender, then such thing is not at all allowed. The directors are appointed at the board of the company, and they are supposed to receive remuneration from only the company on which they are having at the board. They cannot accept any type of remuneration from the third parties. To declare any interest in the company, again, this we have discussed when we were discussing the corporate guidelines in India. If at the time of joining it is expected that the director shall share the information with the board of directors, if he is having any personal interest in the organization, if he is having say 5% share of the company, and if that person is being nominated on the board of directors, at the nomination itself the person is supposed to inform the board of directors that I own these much shares of the company. Then the board of director will decide whether to include this director on their board or not. So that is related to the main duties under the corporate governance guidelines given by United Kingdom. Rest, the duties roles are very much similar, because most of our guidelines we have received from, or we have taken from, the corporate governance guidelines of United Kingdom. Now we will move on to the next country, that is South Africa. So corporate governance guidelines of South Africa we will be discussing. What's the time now? Okay, so just 5 minutes are remaining. So what we will do is we will stop here. In the next lecture we will discuss the corporate governance structure in in South Africa. Yes. So far we have discussed the corporate governance structure in India, corporate governance structure in Singapore, corporate governance structure in United Kingdom, and corporate governance structure in Australia. So I think only this South Africa is remaining. So the corporate governance structure in South Africa we will be discussing in the coming lecture. So thank you everyone for being present in today's session. Thank you.